Aaron Rodgers has been one of the biggest names in the NFL for nearly 2 decades. During his tenure, he's weathered his fair share of doubt and playoff heartbreak, overcoming the odds to savor Super Bowl triumph and a plethora of personal honors. Now, having suffered a devastating start to his time in New York, Rodgers will, once again, have to defy the odds to deliver on the hype that surrounds the upcoming 2024 campaign. The good news is, he's done it before, and you bet he can do it again. This is the rise of Aaron Rodgers, and how he became a true NFL legend. It was a frustrating start to life as a quarterback for Aaron Rodgers. Despite showcasing plenty of talent in high school, he was completely ignored by the big Division I colleges, who weren't willing to overlook his 5'10", 165-pound build, with only Illinois offering him an opportunity to compete for a scholarship. Rodgers' dream of playing professional ball appeared to be crumbling around him, leading him to even consider baseball or law as potential new careers. Then, just as all hope appeared to be lost, Butte Community College got in touch with an offer to make him their new starting quarterback. Rodgers jumped at the opportunity and promptly led the Butte Roadrunners to a 10-1 record and a NorCal Conference championship. He helped himself to 2,408 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, proving yet again that his size was not a barrier to success. Thankfully, this time, somebody noticed. Whilst visiting to recruit tight end Garrett Cross, California Golden Bears head coach Jeff Tedford's eye was drawn to the skinny quarterback delivering the passes. Fast forward several months, and Aaron Rodgers was the new backup quarterback at the University of California. It then took just 5 games for him to get his chance, starting his Division I college career with a victory before leading the team to a 7-3 record as a starter. Rodgers had already repaid the faith of Jeff Tedford's, showcasing a sharp footballing brain and dissecting defenses with quick decision-making and accuracy. Tedford was then even happier when Rodgers led the team to a 10-1 record and top 5 ranking 1 year later. Rodgers completed 66.1% of his passes for 2,566 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. In total, his college tally was 5,469 yards, 43 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions across the 2 years, adding a further 336 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground. By now, Rodgers had quickly gone from overlooked no-namer to talk of the town. He decided to forego his senior season at Cal, instead opting to try his luck in the draft, where his favorite team, the San Francisco 49ers, had the number 1 overall pick. The stars appeared to be aligning for the California kid who had mostly been ignored up to this point. His boyhood team was on the clock and in desperate need of a quarterback. Unfortunately, the excitement and anticipation of draft day was swiftly replaced by another painful dose of deja vu, as the 49ers opted for Alex Smith, setting in motion an agonizing wait for Rodgers. It wasn't until pick 24 that he was able to depart the green room, destined to join a Green Bay Packers team that had surprised everyone by selecting a quarterback, despite having Brett Favre firmly entrenched as the starter. Not best pleased by the decision, Favre made his feelings known by saying, "My contract doesn't state I have to get him ready to play." Not the best welcome for Rodgers. His rookie season was spent watching Favre lead a struggling Packers side that could only muster up a record of 4-12. Whilst it was a forgettable season for Green Bay, it did bring about a change that would mark the beginning of a new era for the team. Mike McCarthy was brought in as the new head coach, and one of his main priorities was to get Rodgers up to speed. The young quarterback was taken under McCarthy's wing, with the pair meticulously working on his footwork, release point, and mechanics. McCarthy even pushed Rodgers to reduce his body fat down from 12% to 10%. He essentially became Mike McCarthy's project, and it paid off. After 3 years of backup duties, complicated by a couple of Favre retirements and unretirements along the way, Rodgers finally got his chance in 2008. For Packer fans, they waited 3 years to see if their 2005 first-round draft pick was up to scratch, and much to their relief, he was. Rodgers began life as a starter by defeating 2 division rivals. He completed 82% of his passes in Week 1 to down the Vikings before unfurling 328 yards and 3 touchdowns to land 48 points on the Detroit Lions. Unfortunately, the team struggled to maintain such a strong pace, finishing up with a 6-10 record, but Rodgers had done enough to prove his worth. His 4,038-yard, 27-touchdown effort was rewarded with a 6-year, $65 million contract, locking him up as the face of the franchise for the foreseeable future. Once again, Rodgers had patiently waited his turn after being overlooked, and he delivered instantly when called upon. He'd achieved his goal of becoming a starting quarterback in the NFL, and now it was time to dominate. Rodgers quickly repaid the Packers' faith in extending him by dishing out 4,434 yards, 30 touchdowns, and just 7 interceptions in 2009. He added a further 316 yards and 5 more scores on the ground in what would become his first Pro Bowl season. Off the back of an 11-5 record, the 2009 season would also bring him his first playoff appearance, in which he passed for 423 yards and 4 touchdowns, rushing in for 1 more on the ground. It was a spectacular performance, setting several new records for a quarterback in their first playoff start. Unfortunately, it was in a losing effort, though, as Arizona managed to edge out a 51-45 win. The rise from year 1 to year 2 appeared to hit a bump in the road in year 3, as the Packers sat at 8-6 and on the outside of the playoff picture looking in. With just 2 games remaining, the Packers needed to win both to even be in with a shot at the playoffs. 404 yards and 4 touchdowns against the Giants secured victory number 1, with a low-scoring 10-3 victory over Chicago the following week, confirming a playoff berth as the 6th seed. Not deterred by the underdog status, the Packers continued to ride their wave of momentum, edging past the 3rd-seeded Eagles before hammering the number 1-seeded Falcons to set up an NFC Championship clash against the bitter rival Chicago Bears. In what turned out to be one of Rodgers' worst games of the season, Chicago picked him off twice to keep the game close. In the end, it was a rushing touchdown each from him and James Starks, in addition to 3 Mason Crosby field goals that got the job done, earning the team a 21-14 victory and a Super Bowl appearance. On the big stage, Rodgers was back to his brilliant best, becoming one of 4 quarterbacks to throw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions in a Super Bowl. He led the team to a 31-25 victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers, winning the team their first Lombardi Trophy since 1996 and earning himself the prestigious Super Bowl MVP award. It had taken just 3 years as a starter for Rodgers to win his first title, and there was no let up from the great quarterback. 1 year later, he turned in a 4,643-yard, 45 touchdown season with just 6 interceptions. His 7.5 touchdown to interception ratio was 4th on the all-time leaderboard at the time, and his passer rating of 122.5 still sits at the top of that all-time leaderboard. In delivering such a stellar season, Rodgers lifted the Packers to a 15-1 record and won himself the prestigious NFL MVP award, but a surprise divisional round loss to the New York Giants would start an unfortunate trend of playoff disappointments. In the 5 years that followed the Super Bowl success, between 2011 and 2016, the Packers would go to the playoffs every year, and every year, they would suffer a heartbreaking defeat. They were an NFC powerhouse with an MVP at quarterback, but Super Bowls are hard to win, and no more glory arrived. There were spectacular moments along the way, but it was a period of football that was more remembered for playoff failures, with the team unable to convert any of them into Super Bowl rings. When the team then missed the playoffs in back-to-back years in 2017 and 2018, people wondered what the future held for Rodgers. The 2019 season brought a fresh bout of adversity in the form of new head coach Matt LaFleur and another controversial draft pick. This time, it was Aaron Rodgers' turn to be annoyed, as the Green Bay Packers opted not to bolster his offense, but instead draft his replacement in Jordan Love. If you've learned anything about Aaron Rodgers by now, it's that he always has a knack for putting out his best after being doubted, which, as a side note, is something to bear in mind as we head into the 2024 season, by the way. Clearly not impressed by the selection of Jordan Love, Rodgers responded by carving up the NFL to the tune of 4,299 yards, 48 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. The remarkable effort brought him yet another MVP award, but the change in head coach did not break the playoff curse that hung over the team. Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeated them in the NFC Championship to drop Rodgers to a 1-4 record in championship game appearances. Now entering his age 37 season, would this finally be the year that Rodgers took his foot off the gas and became susceptible to the young buck waiting in the wings? Nope. Rodgers proved his resilience, supreme skill, and sheer stubbornness by winning his 4th MVP award. His 4,115 yards, 37 touchdown, and 4 interception season made him the first player since Peyton Manning to win the award in back-to-back seasons, but he was yet again unable to convert it into playoff success. The Packers crashed out in a divisional round loss to the San Francisco 49ers. Rodgers' play finally dropped off in 2022, which was his last season as a Packer before embarking on a new project in New York with the Jets. He arrived in New York as a beacon of hope for an emotionally tormented fan base. There have been no division wins in over 2 decades, and their last Super Bowl success was all the way back in 1968. Despite this miserable record, the Jets have been enjoying some dominant defensive performances in recent years. They also benefited from an epic 2022 draft class that featured the defensive and offensive rookies of the year Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson, and a superstar running back in Breece Hall. After several painful decades, this team was ready to go for glory, and Aaron Rodgers was exactly who they needed. For New York, Rodgers was the savior to finally bring glory to the franchise, and for Rodgers, the Jets were an avenue to land another title and secure his legacy as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. However, all that excitement and hope came crashing down after 4 snaps when Rodgers tore his Achilles during Monday Night Football. Whilst it was an agonizing injury for Rodgers and the fans to deal with, the silver lining is that Rodgers will be fit and ready for the 2024 season, and more importantly, he will be leading a much stronger team with an improved offensive line. Remember, if there's one thing that we know about Aaron Rodgers, it is that he has an uncanny knack for producing his best after being hit by adversity and doubt. It is for this reason that it would be foolish to rule out another strong campaign with the New York Jets in 2024, potentially producing his elusive 2nd Super Bowl ring. Do you think it's possible? Let me know in the comments.